So, I welcome you all for Visveshwara Technological University online education. Myself Fedu Nayak, working as Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, Visveshwara Technological University, Bangalore region. So, today I am going to discuss about brief introduction about database, how database is stored, what are the different operations that you can perform with respect to the database. Hope in module 1 you have all learnt about what is database, what is DBMS, what is data, what are the advantages of DBMS, why it is used. So, as you all know that DBMS is nothing but database management system. So, means it is a software that is used to manage the databases. So, in the market there are different database DBMS are available, and each DBMS provides different operations, mechanisms. As you know that, so data DBMS provides an environment to store, process and retrieve the data stored in the DBMS. We can store the data in different form, like you store the data in files, you store the data in object form. Likewise, the DBMS allows data to be stored in a different form. So, today I am going to discuss about data DBMS, which supports storing data in the form of relation. What do you mean by relation? Relations are nothing but the table, the relations, the term used in the DBMS for tables. As you all know, in general, what the table is consists of. So, before we start discussing about in detail about the databases and what are the different operations is that you perform with respect to the databases, just we'll outline what are the things that will be covered in this module. That is, we discuss about SQL data definition and data types, specifying the constraints using SQL, basics retrieval queries in SQL, insert, delete, update statement in SQL, additional features of SQL. So, as I know that, as I discussed, so what is database? Database is nothing but is a collection of data. Not only the data, is a collection of related data. It means that whatever the data that you stored in a database must be related in one or other way. So now, as a normal user, we cannot directly communicate with the database, or say if two persons wants to communicate each other, they must know a intermediate the instructions or the statements that understandable by both parties. The similar way, a user directly cannot store or interact with a DBMS as a database. So, but to interact with the database, a user need a tool, right, through which a user can perform different operations. Then what is the tool is? This tool is nothing but say SQL, that is structured query language. This structured query language is a tool or the language used to communicate with a database. Then what kind of databases that SQL communicates, or SQL help us to communicate? This SQL help us to communicate the data stored in the database in the form of table, are called relation. right. So, the SQL help us to communicate with the data that is stored in the form of table. Okay. So, next is that this language is been developed by IBM in 1970s to interact with the data that is stored in the database in the form of table are called the relation, and such DBMS, the database which supports storing the data in the form of table are called the relation we call as an RDBMS. The RDBMS is an extended version of DBMS which help us to store the data in the form of table, that is called structured data, right. That is why we call it as a structured query language, means the language is used to communicate with the data that is stored in the table, right, table. So, then what are the different the sub languages of SQL? SQL has, say, the 4 sub languages or the part of SQL are, say, called the subset of SQL, that is called, say, DDL, that is DML, DCL and TCL. These are the subset of SQL, right, subset of SQL. Then what the DDL stands for? The DDL stands for data definition language. Then DML stands for data manipulation language. Then DCL is data control language and TCL is transaction control language. I'll discuss in detail about each of sub languages used to communicate with the database. So, the example for relational databases are like SQL Server, MS Access, Oracle, etc. The this DDL, the hierarchical the sub languages of SQL. So, that is a DDL. So, DDL consists of a set of commands are called statements. Then why DDL is used? Why DDL is used? The DDL is, as it stands for, as I said, DDL stands for data definition language. This data definition language talks about layout, outline of a table, right. Say, for example, that if the table look like this, right, if table is look like this. So, DDL, it is going to talk about the structure, means outline of your table, outline of the table, like say how many the columns that you want your table, what kind of data that you are going to store in the respective the column are called field, right. So, that can be specified by using DDL. Then how to create a layout for storing layout of your table to store the data is by using create. The create is a SQL command used to create a relation. When I am talking about database terminology, I use relation instead of table. So, this create statement are used to create a relation. It is nothing but a table to store the data. Then alter. Alter is another command used to add or add a column, right? Add a column or a attribute or a field into an existing table, or modify the type of a data that you are going to store in a table. It is talk about say column, right? So now it not see the alter create do not talk about how what how the data is stored, but it stores it talk about the layout, what are the fields that you want to create for the table or the relation, and what type of data that you would like to store in the respective field. Then say drop is another command which is a DDL command, used to delete the object or the table or the relation that you already created. So when you can use the drop, when you don't want that object to be stored in your database, or you don't want that data anymore. In such case, what you can do is you can use drop. Just I'll discuss like what are the different syntax associated with each of these. Similarly, so just to keep in mind, DDL just talks about layout of a table. Layout means only this part. Like say for example, say I want to store the information about say student. So normally student means we normally store the informations like USN, name, say address, assume it, okay, address. So now this is a layout, are the columns that you are going to use to store the information about the student. That is what I told. So here it is just a field or the attributes in say DBMS, we call them as attributes. So now how do you create such fields? By using SQL is that using create you can create this layout along with the type of the data that you are going to store, Say for example, as we all know that the USN is a combination of alphanumeric. It means it's a character. Alphanumeric means how do you store the data in say the table. So is an alphanumerical value. Then how do you store that alphanumerical values in the database in or say called in table is by using character data type, right? So it means character data type, which is it is already in the other programming language what are the different data types which are available for storing the data, say for creating the variables and all. The similar way, what we do is if you want to store alphanumerical values, what we do is we need some data types. to store that alphanumeric. So we use the character or say called var character, okay, that I will discuss. So now then what does the data type tells is that what type of data that you are going to store in a respective column. That is what that is the definition of data type, isn't it? The type of the data that you are going to store in a respective field, right? Okay. So, this thing means this layout can be done by using create. So, alter means if you wanted to add an existing column, if you wanted to add a column, additional column to an existing table, then we are going to use alter. Say for example, say date of birth. I want to add this column, say date of birth, to a already existing table. So, this is a table, right? So, already exists, but I want later on, I wanted to add one more column, say then we are going to use say alter. Now, say drop. I do not want this table, okay, I do not want this table to be exist in the database. It means this table is, so I do not want this table anymore. So, like say delete this, okay, delete, I do not want anything, okay, I do not want anything. So, then we are going to use drop, to delete complete structure of your table along with the data, that's talk that that is about DDL. The DML stands for data manipulation language, right? Data manipulation language. So, as the name suggests, data manipulating language means you can do processing or you can start interacting with the data. Now, you are not talking, so here we do not talk about the layout or outline of your say table or say called the relation, but instead what we do is we talk about storing, how you are going to process the data, storing the data. Deleting means you are going to work with respect to the data. So, where in the data manipulation language, that is called data manipulation language, is a language works with the data, not with the layout, So, just keep. Then what are the different statements or the commands used to work with the data? Is that insert, say update, then say delete. So, these are the three SQL statement used as DML statement, say data manipulation statement used to work with the data. So, next is say DCL, right? DCL, data control language. Assume say already we have stored all the data into the database, right? Into the database. Now, it is a responsibility, it is my responsibility to protect our data, so that only authorized person can access the data, or access required data, right? Then how to do it? So, that can be done with this data control language, right? Data control, to whom you want to give access to access the data. Say once it is given access, and if that access is you wanted to withdraw, you can withdraw at any time by using some commands. So, for granting the access or the accessibility on the data can be done with the grant, and the withdrawing the permission, or say authorizing in the sense giving a permission. Revoke means just take it back, whatever the permission it has been given to a different user to access different data can be revoked by using revoke. Next is say TCL. This is another command. The another language is called say TCL, that is transaction control language, right? Transaction control language. This language tells that whatever the operations that you are going to do with the database, you wanted to store permanently, or you wanted, if something happens, you wanted to get it the things you wanted to get it back. So, already we know that if you take an example of a banking transaction, whatever the transaction that we do with respect to the banking is it means we are working with very sensitive data. Once you do any updations or any modification to the data, and if you are not able to, without knowing that whether it is right or wrong, whatever the data that you are updating to the database, if you don't know, without analyzing that, if you directly store, it may lead to a inconsistency, inconsistency, right? Data inconsistency means one person access one data, the same data will not be available to the other data, I mean say other user. So, different user gets the different data, or as I called, they do not get the latest updated data. In that case, the database goes to inconsistent state, right? Then how to protect it? So, before you actually store the data permanently into the database, make sure that whatever the statement, SQL statements, like it may be insert, or it may be update, or it may be delete, that you are doing, it should, it is correct. You have to make sure that these statements are correct, maybe in sequence, or maybe in say business logic, right? It is correct. You have to make sure that. Then how it, suppose, assume if there are some mistakes, or if any of the error thrown by any of the statement, maybe insert or update or delete, in such cases, even in the course of execution, even the data is already updated, and but before completing the last statement, if any one of the statement gives an error, we have to get it back. Whatever the updation that has been made with respect to the database, it has to get it back, so that database will not be partially updated, get updated partially, means it will bring back to the previous state. In case, as we know that in the programming, we all know that every statement executes sequentially. As it executes, it keep updating, it affect the database, it keep affecting the database. But during the course of execution, if any one of the statements throws an error, it means that, because this statement is related to, means all the statements which are executing in sequence are related one in one or other way. If during the process of execution, if any one of the statement throws an error, it means that we have to, whatever the changes that we have been made to the database, we have to take it back. That is called, we have to withdraw. How you can do that? So, that can be done with the TCL, transaction control language, means it is SQL TCL, where you can bundle, or you can write a set of SQL statement to execute or to form a logical unit, that logical unit forms a transaction. So, for example, transaction is what? Say when you go to the ATM to withdraw money, what do? You put a ATM card, then what do? You enter the PIN, then when you enter the PIN, then you will enter the amount that you wanted to withdraw. Then that database will check whatever the amount that you have entered, whether it is available in your account or not. That is one event, as I called the statement for checking once amount is sufficient amount is available in your account, then what the next process is, total amount should be subtracted with whatever the amount that you have entered. That again one more the statement will write for getting subtracting the entered amount with the balance, actual the amount which is available in the account. Then after withdrawing, the balance must be get updated, right? Say for example, if you have 1000 rupees, 1000 rupees in your account and you want to withdraw 500 rupees. So, you enter your all the details, that is one statement. Checking the balance, other statement. Then do the balance minus say withdraw, this is another statement. Then balance, one more statement, say balance means we have to update back to the balance. Now, the latest balance is 500 rupees. So, all it means these are a sequence of statement for withdrawing that will be executed at the back end, that forms a transaction, that is called logical unit what we call. So, in case if any one of the steps or the statements throws an error, then so what should happen? So, whatever the amount that you have entered should not get get subtracted with the original balance, right, original balance. So, it means if something happens, the original balance must be 1000. That is why it is advisable while writing SQL statement, you have to put all the SQL statement in the transaction, right, transaction. So, you can, if something happens, you can roll back the transaction, means the transaction TCL will allows user to do to take a decision that whether whatever the operations that you have performed, whether it is right or wrong. If it is right, you wanted to store permanently into the database, yes, then we call it is a commit. We are going to use commit command or the commit statement. That commit statement is going to store the complete data into the database. Whatever the transaction has been made, it will stored permanently into the database. If you analyze that the data which you try to affect to the database is not correct, now I have to roll it back, whatever the SQL statement that is affected the database, that I have to get it back, so that the database will go to the previous state. That can be done with the rollback, right. Commit, it is going to store the data permanently into the database, but rollback, it is going to roll back the statement, right. It means that data will not be stored permanently into the database. So, we can use rollback, so that the database will go to the previous state, right, database go to the previous state. Okay. This is all about different commands used as a part of SQL. Clear? Thank you.